Hi card making friends, it's Sandy here. Welcome back. I'm going to be playing with a little Alex Syberia product today from the new Christmas in July release. We have Pretty Bows, Winter Foliage, the Fa La 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 die set, and then there's a foil plate to go with it, and then you can use the outline to cut it out. There's a Be Merry sentiments with all kinds of great sentiments for Christmas. There's a huge, big Merry Christmas foil plate, and right along with that, a die and the outline to cut it out, which will be on my blue card. Elegant Stripes Hot Foil. Great background. You'll see that today in the cards. A snowflake stencil. Okay, and then we're getting into a beautiful new Festive Poinsettia stamp set that we're going to be playing with today. Absolutely gorgeous. Comes with all kinds of backgrounds and sentiments. There is a layering stencil to help if you don't feel like coloring. There's also a set of dies to cut out just about everything that is in that die set. And so these three pieces plus that elegant stripes background is what we're going to be playing with today. I'm going to be stamping on hammer mill cardstock with Versamark ink because I'm going to be gold embossing this little guy. Obviously using my Misty to do that. As this is a brand new stamp, I'm going to stamp it a couple of times just to season it up a little bit so I get a good stamped image. And then I'm going to peel out my paper. I have a sticky mat underneath there to make sure it doesn't move. And I'm going to close my Misty because I don't want embossing powder all over my new sticky mat. And you want to cover your image with the embossing powder, shake off the excess, and then we're going to heat set it. And I won't bore you with that for too long. Okay, we're going to start stenciling. So I'm going to use my waffle flower stencil mat. I really like this. It's a nice rubber mat. It firmly sits on top of my glass mat on my work surface, and it holds the paper in place for me when I'm doing my stenciling, so I don't have to tape my paper down. I am, however, still going to tape down my stencil. So I start by putting this in the corner, and then I decide that, nope, I'm going to pull it over a little bit because the stencil's sitting up on the ridge. So what you want to do is you want to figure out stencil number 1. I'm going to grab a couple of post-it tape pieces and I'm going to hear it down so that I can really get in and do my ink blending. Okay, I use a piece on each corner. 3 or 4 pieces will do it. I'm using Pink Fresh inks today. I'm using Sparkling Rose and Bubblegum, Tattle Pond, and Mermaid, and for the center a little bit of Marigold. So I've got everything ready to go. I'm starting with the lightest color, and these are the leaves in the background, obviously, Tidal Pool and Mermaid. So starting with a medium-sized blending brush, I am adding the lightest coat to the back, working my way around and getting coverage on the whole thing. I'm not worrying about getting it too well covered and making sure everything's even because there's an overlay stencil that is going to take care of most of that for me. So don't sweat it too much. And there is a couple of centerpieces. Be careful that you're using the background and not the one with all the little dots for the center of the flower. Okay, so switching out to the next stencil, and they're all numbered in the top left-hand corner. Okay, and obviously the number facing you is the right way up. And take an extra little bit of time to line them up carefully. It really does help on your finished project. You won't have any ink coming kind of outside the edges of your beautiful gold embossing. Okay, so I can use the same blending brush because I'm going to a darker color. And I'm just going to get in there and I'm going to overlap each one of those petals. And then you get this beautiful finished image. Okay, so switching to stencil number 3, and I'm going to be using the Sparkling Rose, starting with another medium-sized blending brush, and I'm going to work my way again around each one of these petals with this lighter color of ink. Finishing that off, and I'm going to switch to stencil number 4, and this is the overlay, and it gets done with a darker color. Bubblegum in this case. Of course, you can use any ink you want. You just need a light and dark of each one. Okay, and be a little bit careful when you're doing this particular overlay. There are some very, very fine cuts in it, and if you're not too careful, you might peel a couple of them back. And there we go. We're finished with this one. And now we're going to do the center portion, which I decided was also light and dark pink. So I'm just popping this one in, taping it down. I'm going to clean my brush off because I was on the dark color, so I just quickly wipe my brush off on my little cloth that I have and putting down the light color again. Start in the center and work your way out. That way if you've got a blob, it's actually in the dark spot where you want it, closest to those berries in the center. This one I'm not even going to tape down. It's just small. It doesn't take very long to do these, so I'm just going to hold it in place. This is the overlay for the darker color of the second layer. And you can get away with this on these little ones. And again, go a little on the gentle side. There's very, very fine tips on the detail of these stencils. And they look fabulous when they're done. Ta-da! Here we are. Isn't that beautiful? Love it. Okay, so I need to go back to stencil number 2 because that had the berries for the center. And I'm just trying to line that up. And as I said, I use the marigold ink, and I'm using a really, really fine tipped stenciling brush, and this is from Waffle Flowers. I have a whole set of these, just love them. And I'm finished stenciling. So now we can cut it out and start playing. Okay, so matching die to cut it out. I've decided to make this into a twofer. It's such a lovely big poinsettia that you can get away with this. I'm just kind of auditioning it to see which way I want to cut it. You don't want to cut off a whole bunch, but hey, you need half on each side. So this is where I'm going to cut down the center, and I'm going right in the middle of all of those berries, so there's a little bit of yellow on each side of the card. So take your trimmer, cut it in half. One half's going to go there, and one half's going to go there. And they're going to be pretty all by themselves, but they're quite gorgeous up against each other as well. Or you could have two of them going this way. Next, I'm going to foil my background, so I am using the Elegant Stripes hot foil plate, popping it into the top left-hand corner of my glimmer machine. I like to line everything up in that corner. I am using polished bronze foil. I like it because it's a little bit deeper than the gold and it shows up better in my pictures. It also shows up better in real life. So you want to put good side down with the foil, and then I have a piece of white cardstock. It's 4 by 5 1/4 to make my card front, and I'm just taping it down with some of my Spellbinders tape, holding it in place until that little light quits flicking. And once that's finished, we are going to take these plastic forms, and I've got an extra shim in there, gently pull out the platform, place the shims and plastic on top. You're going to pick it up and you're going to run it through the Platinum 6 embossing machine. And this transfers the gold for you to your cardstock. Super easy, with absolutely fabulous results. And of course I have 2 cards, so I did this twice. So here we go. I have glued everything down. Top folding A2 size card, 4 1/4 by 11. You want to score that at 5 1/2. And I'm just kind of positioning a couple of these sentiments, trying to figure out which ones I'm going to use. And I decided on using the smaller ones because I'm going to add a little bit of gold background to these flowers when I'm done. So I gold embossed a couple of the sentiments and cut them out with the coordinating dies. So one says Happy Holidays, the other one says Merry Christmas. And they're very pretty. I like them. Alrighty then, off camera I cut out with winter foliage die set some gold matte little branches as my little background color because they match the foiling that I did on the card front. And I'm going to be gluing those in. Right now I have already added little pieces of foam square to the back of the poinsettia and the sentiment and just pop those onto the card where I want them. And so then that leaves me the space to add these little gold branches in behind. Aren't these pretty? It's just, you know, it doesn't take a whole bunch of extra work, but boy, it sure makes the card sparkle when you add just a little bit of extra to the background. Okay, and I'm just tucking these in, deciding which ones I'm going to chop off and which ones are going to be full. You get 4 in there. I need this one to be a little bit shorter so it doesn't hang over my sentiment. And I'm using the fine tip on the Barely Art glue to glue all these down. And of course, I am going to do the same thing with the second one, just on the opposite side. So just pop that down, pop the sentiments down, and then we're going to glue in all of the little gold pieces. First of all, again, I'm auditioning to see which ones I want where. So I used the matte gold foil for that, and here we are finished with these pretty little cards. Next up, I have a blue card for you, as promised, with the same elements, but just a completely different look. Again, Pink Fresh, and I used Ocean Breeze, Mermaid Cove, Fresh Pear, Olive, and Marigold again for the center. For the background, I again used the Elegant Strips hot foil plate. I did it on black this time. You could also do it on blue, as I showed just a minute ago. And I used the same stencil, just different colors, cut it out with the same die, and instead of the small sentiments, I used the big Merry Christmas, and I die cut that twice in black and then once in gold, so it really sparkles. So here's the finished cards. I really love how they turned out. Lovely and sparkly, perfect for the holidays. So everything I've used today, I have listed underneath this video in the comments. There's also a link over to my blog where you can get additional card information. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And until next time, toodles!